let's start off the show today talking about the Detroit Lions. Actually, before we get into that, I do want to issue a bit of an apology or a little bit of a disclaimer. I'm sorry about the lack of content recently. I've been extremely busy, but I've also kind of been under the weather. I think it's just seasonal allergies at this point, or something more akin to the common cold. It's not the Rona. I'm fully vaccinated. I think I'm good on that front, but haven't been feeling the best. But also, I've had a lot of work sprout out for my side jobs, my side hustles over the past few weeks, editing, video production, graphic design. I've had a lot of influx of that come in all at once, so I've been sitting at this desk a lot. You can probably tell my beard's untrimmed, my hair is getting super long, I look like I haven't slept in a couple of days, so I've been sitting at this desk a lot, doing a lot of work. It just hasn't been a work for the Hard-Headed Sports Podcast. And again, I'm going to try and do better. This is kind of my statement, me telling you I know I'm going to do better. We're almost at the 300 subscriber mark. I want to continue that progress. And I'm going to be taking a vacation after I make this episode today. So hopefully that revitalizes me. And obviously the NBA playoffs are going to be starting. NHL playoffs have just started. So there's going to be more to talk about moving forward. So hopefully I get a kick in the pants. I get back to my original pace. And the show gets better and better from here on out. But speaking of the show, or speaking of shows rather, I've been doing a lot of sitting at this desk, like I said, and it's allowed me to catch up on some podcasts and kind of just passively listen to stuff while I am, doing some extra work on the side. And I was listening to Part of My Take this week, and new Lions head coach Dan Campbell was on the show, and he said something that kind of made some national news, and I found to be extremely hilarious, and why I am really excited for the Detroit Lions moving forward. He made the comment that he says, I don't think this is going to happen, but I would really love a pet lion to be on the practice field with the players during practice. A pet lion. I love Dan Campbell. I think, he's an extremely outlandish and charismatic figure, and I think he's absolutely perfect at the Detroit Lions. And, when the hire first happened, I was like, I don't know about Dan Campbell. I think you probably could have had a little bit of a better hire in this case, probably somebody a little bit more knowledgeable. I was really pounding the table for Eric Bieniemy. I think he's a charismatic individual, and he should definitely have a head coaching job by now in the NFL. He's a great offensive mind, and I thought that Eric Bieniemy would have been a good fit in Detroit. So when the name Dan Campbell was announced, I was like, that's a little bit out there. Now, granted, Dan Campbell has come exactly as advertised, because if you remember what he was able to do in Miami when he was the interim coach there for a little while after Joe Philbin just got fired, at least I think it was Joe Philbin. It might have been Adam Gase, who had just been fired. No, Gase was fired at the end of the season. It was definitely Joe Philbin. Joe Philbin's Miami Dolphins football team was extremely bland and extremely boring to watch. It was a very similar case in which the team ended up playing like the coach. Team kind of was a little fuddy-duddy. It played like they were a bunch of old men. They weren't physical. They weren't passionate. And Dan Campbell came in that next week, that first week that he was the interim head coach in Miami, and he had those players playing like they were going to run through a wall. So now it kind of makes sense why Detroit made the Dan Campbell hire to begin with, and it's taken me this long to realize it, with the amount of outlandish comments made by Dan Campbell and how he clearly is just so passionate for the sport, and he's so passionate for the culture change that he's trying to instill in Detroit. Because when you think about the past 10 or 11 years of Detroit Lions, head football coaching, Jim Schwartz, Jim Caldwell, Matt Patricia, all of them have very similar qualities in terms of their personality. They don't necessarily seem to be the most energetic. They don't seem to be the most invested in the game. In fact, Matt Patricia looked like he would rather be watching or coaching from his lazy boy in his basement on Sundays. Matt Patricia was just a horrible hire. He never truly seemed like he gave two craps about what was going on during the game, and it affected the Lions on the field. You can tell that the Lions were just not prepared to play week in and week out. They did, have some decent seasons. They had some good games here or there, but Matt Patricia overall just didn't look like he enjoyed his job. He didn't look like he enjoyed being in Detroit, and he didn't want to, have his team playing at a very passionate and high level, which is why Dan Campbell, who comes in, who in his introductory press conference was like, we're going to be playing hard, football, we're going to be biting at their kneecaps. And, here or there, he goes on a bunch of talk shows. He wanted to offer Pat McAfee a job at one point. I don't know. I can't remember whether that was a joke or kind of a serious offer. And now, going on part of my take and saying, oh, yeah, look, we should have like a pet lion on the field during practice. Like, it's so outlandish and weird, but it makes him so likable. It makes the Detroit Lions exciting, especially in comparison to, as I said, to what they had been experiencing the past 10 or 11 years, where they have an extremely good quarterback in Matthew Stafford, and they have some good defensive pieces here or there, but they always look like they just didn't care. And that's a product of your head coaching. That's a product of how your coach prepares you to play week in and week out. And I foresee a future in which Detroit Lions and Detroit Lions fans are really excited to play during the games, and they play with a lot of passion. They play like they're going to run through a brick wall, and that's exactly what Detroit needs. That's exactly what the Lions need, and I can absolutely see why the Lions fans rather, are so excited for the upcoming seasons, and why they're really excited about Dan Campbell and the new look Detroit Lions. Now, obviously, there's a lot of organizational things that have to come in besides that. And I think they've made a couple of good steps moving forward, or to start off rather. They had a very, very quiet free agency, very cost effective after making a big expenditure to acquire Jared Goff's contract in that trade with LA. And trading away Matthew Stafford, they got a haul of first round picks. They had a really good draft. Penei Sewell kind of just landed, to them right in their lap. Obviously when a generational talent at left tackle drops to you at that spot, you take him no matter what. If he was taken, obviously I had Devonta Smith mocked to the Lions in Detroit. They definitely need some wide receiver help, and that will be addressed eventually. I'm not quite sure when, but that definitely will be addressed. They lost 3 or 4 out of their 5 starting caliber wide receivers. But, they had a decent free agency, very quiet and cost-effective, re-signed a couple of big names. Romeo Okwara was one of them. They had a decent to great draft, depending on who you ask. Obviously, Penei Sewell falling to them was great. But I think Dan Campbell is really going to be what turns this around. If he can get Jared Goff playing at a great level, if he can reinstill Jared Goff's passion for the game, because it looked like Sean McVay and that riff that Sean McVay and Jared Goff had in LA was really affected Goff. If he can reignite Goff's passion, if he can reignite the passion of not only the entire organization but the fan base as well, I can foresee the Detroit Lions being extremely successful because of Dan Campbell. And I know maybe this may be a little bit of an overreaction to legitimately one line that he said during a Part of My Take interview on that podcast, but I can't help it. I can't help but be excited by Dan Campbell. I can't help but be excited for the future of the Detroit Lions. And again, I am not a Detroit Lions fan. I grew up a Green Bay Packers fan and a Miami Dolphins fan more than anything else. If anything, I'm completely against the Lions, but obviously this is an unbiased show, and I'm really excited for the future of the Detroit Lions, and I can absolutely see why Lions fans are so excited and why they should have reason to be excited after however many years of being in a drought. So they're probably not going to have a good year this year. They got a pretty tough schedule ahead of them, and obviously the first year of the rebuild is always the hardest, but moving forward with all those first round picks and maybe a bigger free agency offseason this upcoming season, if they can especially get Jared Goff turned around, I can be really optimistic about where the Lions are going in the next couple of seasons, and I will be keeping my eye on them. It's really the New York Giants and the Detroit Lions that I think are the two teams that I'm really kind of invested in from a sports perspective this season, in terms of wanting them to have success. Obviously, New York with Daniel Jones, I want Daniel Jones to have a good season. I'm excited for what the New York Giants are going to be able to do on offense. That was kind of like one of my big themes this offseason. Wow, New York is loading up on offense. They're really going to try and give Danny Dimes a chance to succeed. And I guess the other team now is the Detroit Lions, seeing how Dan Campbell has really made me invested in a team that I shouldn't be invested in all about. So good on Dan Campbell. It's going to be interesting to see what he does with Detroit moving forward. Hey folks, thank you so much for listening to this segment from the Hard-Headed Sports Podcast. If you enjoyed this segment, make sure that you drop a like on the video and a comment. It helps me out a bunch. And if you're interested in watching more segments like this from the show after the show has been completed, you should definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you're interested in listening to the entire show in its full-length entirety, you should listen to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. Once again, thank you so much for watching the video. My name is Nick Ryan, and I will see you all again very soon.